Continuing on in Torah Basics, the Ten Commandments was written on 2 tablets, and the reason for that is because it was a treaty between God and His people. In the ancient world, they would make treaties, and a king would come and conquer another country, and then he would make a treaty with that country, and he would start off in the treaty talking about how wonderful he was and why he deserves whatever he gets from that country. And then the next thing would be all of the obligations of that nation. And I am working in Precedence of Torah Commands. The information is also in Yeshua's Path, Volume 3, for your notes. And I am in chapter, the chapter that says the precedence of commands is found in the structure of the 10 commandments on the tablets. So we have to talk about how the tablets were written in order to understand a little bit about what's going on here. In Exodus 32:15, it reads, gives us some detail about this. And Moshe turned and went down from the mountain, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in his hand. The tablets were written on both sides, on both of their sides, on one side and on the other side they were written. So it's making a big deal about this being written on 2 sides, and we'll get into that. I've got a lot of documentation in here on historical information concerning how treaties were made in the ancient world. And so the conquering king would come in, he'd conquer the nation, and he would make this treaty. And he would keep one copy for himself, the other copy would go to the nation, so that both parties knew exactly the obligations of each party. Okay? If you had a big empire, for example, the sovereign king may have been obligated to come to the military assistance of that nation because of the fact that it had wiped out its military in the process of conquering it. And but not always, of course. But anyway, there was obligations on both sides. It was a contract. It was a covenant. Okay, and the Bible talks about our covenant with God, and this is writing basically our covenant on here. And when you go into the 10 Commandments, this is exactly what we see. If you turn to Exodus 20, it starts out and it says, "And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage." So there it is right there. That is why God deserves for us to do all the things that He is telling us to do. And then, of course, comes all of our obligations. You shall have no other gods before me, etc. Okay, so all of the obligations, and this includes all of the instructions in the Torah, are incumbent upon us because of how wonderful our conquering king is. And he did conquer us. We were rebellious, and he came and got us and conquered us by the various things that he did to get you out of sin. Okay, and he brought us out of the land of Egypt, and that is a reference there to why do we know that God is the one who is the true God, and we'll get into that later on also. So we have a treaty here. Now, in the ancient world, the sovereign king would take his treaties and he would put them in his footstool. He would have a throne, and then he would have a footstool. And the footstool was a box where he would keep his treaties. And on the side of the footstool, he would have these angels that would look on it, and they represented righteousness and justice. And what that meant was that that sovereign king was obligated to fulfill his side of the treaties. Okay, he couldn't just change them whenever he felt like it. And that was how authority was recognized in those days. And that's exactly what we have in the Ark of the Covenant. You've got the two cherubim that represent righteousness and justice, telling God that he has to fulfill his obligations. And in the covenant that we make with God, the basic covenant is, and we'll get to this in the path in step 7, the basic covenant is saying that we will do everything that God tells us to do if God, on his part, provides everything that we need to do that. Because we can't do anything, because we're, helpless and worthless, right? But he can provide everything. That's grace. And if he does that, we are obligated on our part to do all of the things that he requires of us, which is the commands of the Torah. And that's exactly what's going on. He's the one who brought us out of Egypt, meaning that he is the one who's going to provide everything that we need to be able to do those things. And then the second copy went with the nation, right? But in this particular case, both of those copies are together, and they go into the Ark of the Covenant, okay? And it actually says in a number of places that the Ark is the footstool of God. And the reason that it's saying that is because it's talking about this treaty idea. 1 Chronicles 28:2, Psalm 99:5, Psalm 132:7 and 8, Isaiah 66:1. And but because these two are together, the reason for that is because the sovereign king is with his conquered nation. He's with us. Okay, so the two copies of the treaties are together. And so the ark is also seen as the throne of God in Exodus 25:22 and a lot of other places. And so what we see is the Shekinah Kavod, that the cloud and the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire is up above the ark. And so that is his throne, and he's putting his feet on the ark as his footstool. And so this idea of the treaty is very important. Now, why was it written front and back? Why does it tell us this little detail? We'll get into that in the next video.